So we got another update from Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ here today, continuing on some further support for post-season 1 Reloaded, which is definitely nice, getting a few more changes and fixes in before the holiday break for the developers. So today we're running down the changes and even the new content that can now be accessed in Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. So as we go along, drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it out insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. And if you'd like to join us on that road to 600,000 subscribers. If you'd like to join the community, I'd love to have you. And finally, check out my friends at G Fuel for 20 to 30% off your entire order. But for now, let's take a look at these new changes to Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. So let's start with the content that's live, the larger things here on offer. So remember last week when that update came out for Season 1 Reloaded, it was reported that Building 21 wouldn't be coming to DMZ just yet. It was added with the update, but you couldn't actually access it. And Infinity Ward had no real plans to tell people how to access it and when it would be accessed. Well, thankfully that was kind of short-lived because as this update, we actually got it today. Infinity Ward tweeted missions to Building 21 are greenlit for those with access cards in the DMZ. Engage with extreme caution in this research facility as competing operators and high-tier enemies will be weapons-free. Successful exfil is critical, followed by our window to strike is limited. If missed, operators will need to wait for future deployments. Good hunting. So right up front, this sounds like we're not going to be getting Building 21 as a constant, stable spawn point, but instead, we're going to be getting it in limited runs of this. And with this being the first introduction of access to Building 21, we're still unsure how long these deployment windows per se are for Building 21. 12 hours, 24, 48, a week at a time. We just don't quite know, but it's interesting for sure the approach they're taking here for this. On one hand, I do think that it's kind of cool to keep things on a on your toes type of deal and give larger meaning to these areas so that once you get in, you realize, okay, I need to make my time here worthwhile. But at the same time, especially when they're unannounced, it can be incredibly frustrating for the whole of the community because if you're not around and it's a very limited window, you might not have the opportunity to actually even just check it out at all. My middle ground here would be maybe to have it limited still, of course, but bring back that multiple weeks in advance playlist update of sorts that we saw with Warzone the past year, where we knew the next 3 to 4 to 5 weeks out in terms of every playlist and what we'd be seeing in those limited runs, so that players can end up scheduling accordingly to if they want to jump in and try this out. But anyways, Building 21, it's a big addition to DMZ. It's a multi-leveled research building controlled by Shadow Company in the lore, but it's got a lot of intricacies that I'm personally really looking forward to jumping into and mastering. The footage you'll see on screen is courtesy of Mr. Dalek JD. I've been out most of the weekend here since the update, so haven't had the opportunity really to jump in and grab any access cards for myself for Building 21, but for the sake of just sharing the basics, he was kind enough to share some footage, so check his links below. But Building 21 is an entirely separate location for DMZ, where if you have an access key, you can enter into it by simply choosing your spawn location. You can choose to play on Al Mazrah or Building 21. But one thing to note is that when you do have these access keys, it does seem though to be one use per access key. So if you want to make it worthwhile, you want to go back in and do multiple runs through Building 21, you're gonna have to go in, loot, and extract with multiple keys in DMZ. But it's a much smaller map than that of Al Mazrah, naturally, but still, it's very big and easy to get lost on, it seems. With multiple levels, tons of corridors and substructures, it's easy to lose your bearings. There's various levels that are sort of also special locations, and of course there's plenty to loot and get into, but just like within Al Mazrah, there's also new exfil rewards for those that embark on things like weapon crate grinds, with 6 new rewards for 6 successful exfils with various weapon crates in Building 21. Very excited to jump in myself and explore, but if you guys have an access card, you can get in now for a limited time. But again, how long that window will be, we don't quite know just yet, so jump in while you can. Now what this means for the future though, I'm actually pretty excited for this. It seems like DMZ has a lot of potential, a lot of cool areas that could come to play in the future, and with the prospect of standalone maps like this, that makes it pretty cool for variability in those playstyles. The more and more that I see for DMZ, the more and more that I engage with and play with it, it makes me excited for the future of this and new ways to play COD. But I'm hoping for some additions here over the future that maybe allow for more rewards just beyond completing challenges. Maybe extracting with cash actually adds to a bank in the back end where you can buy things cosmetically or such, but maybe that's just some wishful thinking. We can expand on that more in like a wish list video later on down the line, but for now, it's got some cool potential. If you guys want to, check it out in DMZ and Building 21. Now, beyond that, we also saw additional changes. One of the big ones here and the marquee items out of today's update was Warzone 2 actually saw an update to the loadout weapon price. It was decreased in the buy station. Now, of course, you can't buy actual loadout drops. Those are still only reserved for the loadout drop world event in Zone 2, and also your full loadouts can be accessed through strongholds. But if you were to buy individual weapons before this update update as of yesterday, you would have had to gone in, go to the buy station, and spent $5,000 in cash. That is something that now you can, for $5,000, get 2 weapons, because the individual weapon price was cut by 50%, now only $2,500 per weapon. And personally, I like this change a lot. With a limited access to cash, it seems like, I find that cash can be very few and far in between whenever you loot Al Mazrah in Battle Royale. Sometimes you'll end up finding a ton of cash, others you're scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to just find anything. But by lowering the price of these weapons, it allows for a bit more access to weapons in late game. It can really give players a better chance as well. Honestly, late game is where I really like the sound of this change, because again, when everything is looted, you're just trying to regain and get back into the action. This gives you a viable chance now at this point. Now, it's not quite, again, to the viable loadout perspective, so I think this is still a nice middle ground. I know there's going to be some sides for and against full loadouts, but it seems like we're going to be seeing more middle grounds here, perhaps with other features added or adjusted, with accessibility for things if this trend continues, which personally, I'm okay with that. I like using my guns as much as everyone, but honestly, I'm also not bothered the way that it is. I'm kind of just a show up and play, I'll deal with it type of player, I think, so it's whatever to me. But I also do have to wonder that with these shifts recently that we saw to a couple of fundamental things and now these buy station prices, I'm wondering if support has shifted to Raven fully at this point, because it's clear that Infinity Ward was getting a ton of vocal backlash for some of the base product from COD Next up until launch, and now since Season 1 Reloaded, we've seen a ton of chatter from Raven. And honestly, I will say Infinity Ward has stepped up their comms a bit, but it seems like Raven is just more so hands-on at this point than before. So I wonder if we'll start to see things shift to their primary control on this front and now leave maybe MP, Spec Ops, and Raids, as well as DMZ to Infinity Ward. And if that's the case, while I love the amount of separate experiences in various different ways, like you have a looter-shooter extraction in DMZ for players that want that, you have a Battle Royale for players that want that, you have a traditional multiplayer for players that want that, you have co-op for players that want that. While I'm all for all these separate experiences for everyone, I do think that when they're all under the control of Infinity Ward, it's spreading them too thin. If they can hand off Warzone, better support, and create additional content for future seasons for like MP and such, I'm totally fine with that. I do think that Raven did a pretty good job being hands-on last year. I know that that might be controversial to some people, but they really wanted to take community feedback into consideration. They were transparent, and I liked that for the end of Warzone 1, and I think it would be nice to pick up with Warzone 2 with that. So those were the 2 main changes here out of this update, but we also saw a handful of different bug fixes and a few more minor things introduced as well. Fixing an issue where players were able to save blueprints from private matches and showcase, that one allowing things that were unlocked through private match but not via public match to be usable in game. But also, I think there was a camo duplication bug from showcase, if I'm not mistaken, that should now be fixed out as well. It fixed an issue that could affect the Basilisk bullet spread when ADS'd. It fixed an issue with the Gaz operator skin, the Grass Ops, not appearing as purchased once unlocked, that being the one that requires you to complete the raid as well as buy the operator skin. It fixed an issue that caused lingering smoke to disappear while in ADS during an active SAE. It fixed an issue that prevented players from selecting a blueprint after leaving a match early. It fixed an issue that caused Steam friends to appear as their Steam ID 64 rather than their intended nickname, and also fixed an issue preventing players from selecting the correct number of Battle Pass tokens to purchase. Game mode specific stuff, Battle Royale saw a bug fix that was an issue with the Champions Quest where negative effects of the subsidiary items remained on screen after they were dropped off, and DMZ it fixed an issue that prevented players from unequipping an insured weapon if their contraband inventory was full. So again, some more minor stuff, but also some more bigger stuff as well that does have larger implications for the gameplay loop as a whole. But for now, that's what we're gonna call it. That is the update here that we ended up seeing. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys liking Building 21? Are you liking these loadout weapon price changes? Whatever the case, feel free to drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. We're getting all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. For now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.